What's up, everybody? I'm back with a spoiler review of Knives Out 3 Wake what was it? Wake Up Dead Man. I keep wanting to say Wake Up the Dead Man for some reason. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Anyway, uh I know people give Rian Johnson a lot of crap, rightly so, but I do thoroughly enjoy his Knives Out series. It's the third one in the installment because I do love me a good murder mystery, especially if it's done right. Um, so it's written and directed by Rian Johnson. It's on Netflix right now. It was briefly in the theaters uh, a month ago, but it's in a few select theaters, so I couldn't really go out easily to go see it. Wasn't about to do all that traveling for this. Uh, but once again, Daniel Craig returned as Benoit Blanc, and I do love his look and aesthetic. He got like a little bit of longer hair now. Um, we got Josh O'Connor as Reverend Judd, Glenn Close as Martha Delacroix, devout church lady, right hand woman to Monsignor Wicks. Josh Brolin plays Monsignor Jefferson Wicks. Mila Kunis as Sheriff Geraldine. Jeremy Renner as Dr. Nat Sharp, which is ironic because there's a hot sauce bottle in the previous film with his face on it, because there's a Jeremy Renner in this universe that coincidentally looks like Nat Sharp. You got Kerry Washington as Vera Draven, a lawyer. We got Andrew Scott as Lee Ross, author. Kaylee Spaney as Simone Vivian, disabled former concert cellist. Daryl McCormick as Cy Draven, an aspiring politician. Thomas Hayden Church as groundskeeper Samson Holt. We got Jeffrey Wright. I love when we get Jeffrey Wright and Daniel Craig in the same film because they're so good together. As Bishop Langstrom. Annie Hamilton as Grace Wicks, son to Jefferson. Mother to Jefferson. James Faulkner as Reverend Prentice Wicks, grandfather to Jefferson. I didn't even know this. Joseph Gordon-Levitt cameos as a baseball announcer in this film. I didn't even notice. He had he used his voice in the previous film as the hourly gong for Glass Onion. It's just like it's a weird little co-op with Levitt and Rian Johnson for some reason. He never actually put Joseph Gordon-Levitt in any one of these films, but he's using his voice for very small, innocuous things that people will completely overlook if you don't call it out. Anyway, so the movie begins with Benoit Blanc reading a written letter from Judd, and we see it retelling what's happening in like the first act of the film, and how he was a former boxer. He accidentally killed somebody in the ring. He felt so guilty he ran to the church and became a priest, trying to find absolution and try to help the world rather than try to fight it. He got in trouble for punching out a very rude deacon. So instead of punishment, we got Jeffrey Wright's character decided to send him to upstate New York to the church of Monsignor Wicks, who they have a loose, relationship with, because Wicks has a very one of those fire and brimstone type of vibes, but even going even further than that, as Judd, after spending like several months at this church, come to understand that this guy ran his church with just with zero love, and it's more so out of his ego rather than doing it for Christ. And he pretty much ran all but his like devout, or at least the loyal few people who they see him as like, oh, he can do this or that for me, or find some kind of transactional, not via money, but just like like what was it, Simone, the disabled woman, Simone, thinking he can heal her, because pretty much giving him all of her savings in the hopes of trying to get healed. And Judd pretty much calls out Wicks on it. The fact that he's been observing and he doesn't like what he's seeing. Josh Brolin does a great job being like this like antagonistic kind of person. But he points out that, because Dr. Nat, his wife, left him, and for it was not really fully an explanation. She just upped and left, and instead of helping him through this ordeal, you pretty much like festering the anger, which will probably blow up in unexpected ways. Vera, whose father was friends with Wicks, and she felt like, kind of restricted, felt like she has to stay in this town for, just out of obligation. And she already raising what she suspects is her half brother that her father brought home one day as a kid, and after he passed, he just took it upon himself to kind of help raise the kid. She's just around here just out of obligation, and it's not like, and giving her any guidance. We got this Lee Ross as Arthur, who is just like very, very paranoid, and he's like he's literally building a moat around his house, and it's kind of like he is like it's just like he's in his writing, which isn't doing all that well like it used to, but it's it is bringing in people who is not so tight, is not got a few screws loose kind of thing. It's not a good look. Simone's giving up all of her savings to this church, and it's just like that is not okay. Of course, like giving ties to the church is one thing, but if you draining her freaking account, that's not helping much. You've given her false hope. Sai, who's a politician. I gotta point out Daryl McCormick, who plays Cy. There was like a particular line as he's talking with Judd in one scene, and he's telling him, like, as he's trying to get into politics, he's trying to cater to every base known to man, and he just rattling off, it's like boom, 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 and it's like, I'm pretty sure there were certain edits here and there. I'm pretty sure there was, a couple of flubs, what have you, but it's probably very minor, because he's like, very good, and he's just like okay, like this demographic, this demographic, this demographic, different demographic. It's like at least 10 things he was trying to cater to, and nobody gravitated to him because he's just not that, because part of a politician is you got to be able to be likable and personable, and Judd Dawes, this dude's not, very good at it. And after he tells him this stuff, Wicks punches him in the freaking stomach, and it's like, he he pretty much basically saying he knows what's best, because but then Judd took it upon himself to try to have like a private meeting with him and the parishioners, including Glenn Close's character, Martha, explaining, and they're so scared of Wicks that, or at least felt obligated or duty bound to Wicks because of what he can possibly do. Matter of fact, Cy, bringing in his little mobile kind of like video thing, kind of like, people who go on different trips and have these little camera setups to try to blog every little thing, which, Judd points out that he's posting this kind of stuff online and fostering this big group. It's kind of like almost, building almost like a cult-like following around this Monsignor. Well, of course, he doesn't think this is like doesn't have to be a secret. He's going to tell Wicks this anyway, but he thought like these guys should have some kind of free range, or at least give some like free space to talk, because clearly he's observing this and he doesn't not like what's going on, and he wants to give them the space to hear their true opinions, because he actually wants to help these people. Because unlike Wicks, because Judd, despite him, it's kind of like in certain movies where people like, I don't want to be king, where typically those kind of people that are the best king or the best, one to rule, because he actually he doesn't see himself lording over people. That's how I view Judd, because there's moments where he just, felt like he's like lost, and he doesn't think this is right calling. But there's moments here that I really, really like. It's very well done, and I think it's not only great direction, but the actor did an amazing job. It's really good. Where he like, this is one scene where he's getting overwhelmed, and he's calling up. He's with Benoit, and he's calling up to get some information about who sent over a tractor. And this woman on the phone that he's trying to rush along just to get the information, kind of rush off the phone, but then and she just stops him and asks, like, Reverend, can you pray for me? And it's just like the look on his face. The scene just stops, because there was like I only watched this last night, but I kind of remember, like, there's like, background kind of like tunes, like not that kind of thing, but this kind of background noise, because he's kind of rushing off the phone because it's like, because he's trying to solve this mystery, because Monsignor Wicks gets killed in this in a storage closet where he's just off the side from the away from the eyesight from anybody in the pews. We'll get into that in a second, but the background tone just stops. Now we just kind of focus on this. Everything we try to rush to, because you feel in like you're in Judd's position, where this woman is having like a crisis because her mom is sick. It's like some kind of brain tumor or aneurysm or something like that, and she says some hurtful things, clearly not in the right state given the condition, but out of like emotional response, she's the daughter says something what she feels is kind of foul back, and she's worried that will probably be the last thing she probably said to her, and she's having like a personal crisis. Judd stops everything. Even like Benoit Blanc kind of looks over and clearly sees it's kind of like, oh, never mind. So he closes the door behind him and walks off into the living room, and it clearly was at least an hour or so where he just kind of sits with her and prays with her over the phone, and I like that. There's moments like that I really like. That was perfectly well performed, where you as audience feel this. It's like this dude, like he's really good at this kind of stuff. Where he just despite how you might feel about the Christianity or Catholicism, it serves such a great importance for just these small things. In moments like this is why the religions was even like was around as long as it has been, and why Jesus started this entire thing. Well, technically it probably started with more so with Abraham, but I'm splitting hairs here. But just for the sake of the argument, that's why it's just been around for so long, because it is designed to help people going through so many internal crises that they need guidance, and without, let's be honest, without these type of things, whether it's like Christianity or Buddhism or Islam, whatever the case may be, it's central point to them, because humanity always wanted to find meaning. They can't go. We as a human species in general, I know there's atheists out there and whatever, but in general, we try to find meaning to our lives, and religion helps us with the more internal struggles rather than just the outer struggles in our lives. Because if you really peel back the layers, without them, at least for the most part, as atheists went out into the world and do fine for themselves, but just in generalities, without this kind of stuff, humanity might collapse under its own kind of sorrows. It just kind of spoke violence to me, because this is a really, really good good performance from this actor, honestly, because I bought every second of moments like this. Like, matter of fact, it's not even just with this. He acted his ass off with just anxiousness, nervousness, sadness, and just like kind of the quirky humor that he does here and there. He went through the gambit of emotions and performances. This is very well done, man. I just gotta point that out and get that part out the way. Anyway, so after a few months, well, after a sermon, typically Wicks takes a bit of a break because he just gets very forceful and like rah 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 kind of thing. He goes off, kind of like energy kind of spent a little bit. He goes off to the side to the storage area where he has like a hidden flask in like the breaker box, and to give himself to wet his whistle a little bit. And this dude's clearly not fit to be a Monsignor, let alone a priest. He clearly has because the way he gives confessions to because Judd and Wicks end up giving each other confessions and stuff like that. But when Wicks gives his confessions, is more so partly I think just to F with him, because this dude views this church as his church, his words. And anybody who's ever been to church, or at least long enough, knows no priest, no pastor, like whatever, wouldn't proclaim as this is their church, quote unquote. They typically will refer as God's church, God's house. Clearly, just the way, I mean, it might look like a slip of the tongue here and there, like, just in passing, but the way is being delivered, you can just, like the way Wicks did it, clearly he doesn't, he just completely views it as his church. He is just like, he's coveted, is like, he feels like he can do whatever he wants in it. Not everything, but he's just like, clearly not doing the job as entailed. He ends up passing out, and everybody walks over and sees that he has been stabbed in the back by this devil-looking dagger thing. And Glenn Close, always love Glenn Close, but it gets kind of annoying when she kind of screams, and she does it like she's Glenn Close, of course, but it's just like she just goes over the top with her little dramatic screams, and it's like I don't think Knives Out is it isn't the type of movie where you need to give those Oscar-worthy kind of screams. Okay, I'm just saying, it's like she does like, it's like, okay, it's like, I get it, you give it 110% in everything you do, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's just my personal thing. It's just like, it's Glenn Close. I have no it's not my place. I'm just giving like my personal opinion. It's like it's not even just she's giving 110%. She's giving 210 with those screams. And it's like, okay, as you did like at least 3-4 times throughout this entire film. Pretty sure it's 4 times. So Monsignor is dead, and the cops are called. They bring in Benoit Blanc, who comes in not fully introducing himself. At this point, people are looking at Judd like the prime suspect because of the falling out he had with Monsignor Wicks, who he said, and it had to be on camera because of Cy didn't know he was shooting that far to pick up the audio, because he clearly doesn't have no kind of boom mic or anything like that. So how is he able to hear so far? Because clearly, like a good, not crazy far, but a good distance away. It's like me right here and further beyond that door into the hallway. Or at least probably a little further. So there's clearly no way that sound would travel that far to pick up perfectly without any type of, wind being picked up or anything like that stuff. It's pitch perfect, crystal clear audio of a decent distance away, which would not make any sense if you know anything about like sound engineering and mic and stuff, and how to operate boom mics and stuff like that, like I do. It's just like no freaking way. There's no way that it happens. Even with the basic understanding of audio equipment, there is no freaking way he was able to pick up that audio on that camera and it being crystal clear as it is. No freaking way. Just to get the entire town to turn against Judd, thinking that he's a prime suspect, because he tells Wicks, "I want to cut you out like a cancer. You're hurting this church." So clearly viewed it as a threat, and now he's dead. He is the prime suspect, because that whole devil-looking thing, it was part of this lamp where Judd was getting drunk one night, after this falling out, and he broke off. He was on top of a lamp at the bar, and he accidentally broke it off, and he ends up taking it with him as he's leaving out, and he ends up, throwing it at the church, which crashed through one of the windows, and that being the murder weapon. Benoit shows up, knowing he's not the guilty party, just for a few minutes, because his skills as a detective is unparalleled. Just for a few minutes, he's able to pick up, like, yeah, you didn't do it. You obviously has not, given your face and bags on your eyes, the chapped lips, you clearly haven't been sleeping at all. Probably been, estimated at least a couple of days you haven't been sleeping. Your knees of your pants have been scuffed up. Clearly you've been on your knees praying for a extended period of time. And it's like, and the way your shoes are, you could have been pacing relentlessly. Guilty people don't do what you're doing. So even though I don't have any evidence, I can clearly see that, like, it's not a behavior of a guilty person. It's a behavior of a person who feels guilt. But it's like a little dialogue exchange between him and Judd, where clearly Benoit, being a person of like reason, don't obviously believe in religion, specifically Christianity, and he just kind of points out, because like he starts off talking about, like, the architecture and everything like that, and and like the art of the storytelling, but then he gets deeper in the roots of his, like, because there's always those people that kind of questions everything about the religion. And of course, any sound reasonable person, even if you do believe, you can understand there are certain things in the Bible is like, questionable. It's not like, it's kind of like when people, when young kids kind of questions, like, how does Noah get even if you don't count like the birds or even like the animals in the sea, even if you don't count those, because ones can fly and the others can swim, even if you count those out, there's still a significant amount of animals that's on this boat. Even if you put two of each, could not fit all on this massive ark. It doesn't make it. Yeah, clearly doesn't make any sense. Anybody can tell you this, but it's like the story behind these kind of tales that give the meaning. It's just kind of like It's kind of like any kind of story. It kind of pumps it up. It's kind of like getting the like one of those Grimm's fairy tale kind of things. It's kind of like it's warnings or life lessons uh, that you kind of uh, uh, heighten it with extravagant things just to give it some punch, just to really hammer it home. It's kind of like with like the tortoise and the hare. You know full well that no realistic turtle and a rabbit would ever go in a race. Of course, logically that sounds dumb. And of course, a rabbit would outpace a turtle because one is designed to be fast and the other is designed to be slow. But people, if you just tell them directly, hey, take your time with things. Sure, like some people probably can understand it, but most people are stupid. So you give the story of the tortoise and the hare, so give you this dramatic story to like really hammer it home. Yeah, the rabbit got cocky, took his time on the middle of the road, ended up falling asleep so long the turtle already passed him and beat him at the race because slow and steady. So it's just like it's kind of like that. But Benoit Blanc doesn't view it in that way because he's a detective. Plus, if you picked it up from the previous Knives Out film, he clearly is homosexual. So he definitely, well, not all homosexuals view like religion as like a bad thing, but he kind of points out the fact that it's filled with like misogyny and homophobia and this and that. It is, yeah, sure. He tells Judd this, even though he kind of walks it back. Clearly, he feels like he's kind of disrespecting this guy. But Judd completely understands because he probably heard it before. But it's just like, yeah, any rational person can acknowledge the fact that, yeah, people of a certain time period when these stories was being like written down, it's like were filled with certain things that by today's standards would be completely horrific. There's a lot of things just that back then that was done in a particular time period would be considered kind of barbaric or horrific, but thus was the culture of the time. Up until Jesus, people wouldn't hesitate to stone people to death for certain acts. But before Jesus, that was the culture until there was like a certain shift. So we can't just look back on certain things, even during Jesus' lifetime or not too soon after, that we see like, oh wow, this is kind of effed up. That or even before, let's go with like Abraham, almost killing his son, and it's like until God stopped him. And it's like, of course, we look at it as barbaric, but it's kind of like there are certain things that like people did back then. You wouldn't find it okay on any metric, but we got to stop looking at the past with 2025, almost 2026 eyes. Anyway, sheriff comes in, kind of blows it because he's trying to do his thing to gauge this guy, to see where his head was at. But Benoit, formally introduces himself and tells him like, no, I don't think you really did it, but I'll need your help to find who truly did it. There's like a running theme in all three of these films. But two things. I'll get to the second thing by the end of this review. But the first thing is getting the main person who involved, who is like, kind of a, if not one of the suspects, or somehow really tied to the group of suspects and have that person work with Benoit Blanc into solving the case. You did that with uh, Armandale Armas' character in the first movie. You did that with uh, I forgot the actress's name and the character's name, but you know, in Glass Onion, the black woman. Uh, uh, you work with her. Yep. He worked with her to try to solve that case. So now you're working with uh, Judd, who's a prime suspect, and working with him because he knows full well that he didn't do it. Uh, so they go through their investigation. Uh, uh, they do the whole autopsy thing. Uh, they then uh, uh, I'm trying to backtrack here to get in order. Uh, After the funeral, uh, Judd and Blanc gather the loyalists together to question them, but they being very tight-lipped. All except Sai, who comes in saying like he recorded the conversation between him and uh, uh, between Judd and Wicks, and he showed it to Blanc and Judd, where it is revealed that not only he was planning on shutting down the entire church and moving on, but before he's going to do that, he's going to out, because he had this little private little, after Judd had his little private little meeting, Wiggs decided to have his little private little meeting with the loyalists. And he is revealed that he was planning on outing every last one of them on all their little issues to the entire town, and probably beyond with a couple of them. Like, well, it was also revealed that Sai is the illegitimate son of Wicks after he messed around with a random woman he never saw ever again, but she ended up giving birth. Somehow met up with Vera's father, who took it upon himself to like take in the boy under the false pretense of it being his kid, until Vera found out that this is not of her blood, and she was gonna out Wiggs on that front, because like at least show that you're not as, you know, all high and mighty as you proclaim, blah blah blah. Then Wiggs kind of snaps on all of them, like you know, all their issues, like you know, the author, he was like, Lee, he's like, Wick says like, I'm gonna call posters that I know about how you, just the way he's carrying on. It's like you'll never be published ever again. You'll be a pariah. He's just going down on the list, and it's like, oh, he's cleaning house. He had like a one-on-one dialogue with Sai, who he's probably is like a true blue Wicks, because he wants to use Wicks in order to, because with the whole online presence, he bolsters this following where bolstered this following, and and there's this like whole thing with this diamond called the something Eden, Heart of Eden, something like that. This pink diamond that Wix's grandfather. This whole story behind Wix's grandfather, whose daughter was clearly like for the streets. Let's be frank. But she ended up getting pregnant with Wix, uh, and the grandfather decides like, okay, you can stay here, and if you, I'll look after you. You have some place to stay, and I'll have something for you after I die. I'll make sure you have something. But she didn't get any better. She was just not a good person, even after having Wix. And we see Martha, who's like already about to be like a preteen at this point. Because there's this like cross that's not there anymore, because after he dies, and this pink diamond is that Wix's mom views as Grace. I'm pretty sure that was Wix's mom's name. Yeah, Grace. After she felt like she was owed the inheritance, can't find it, so she ransacked the entire church, destroying even like the crucifix, and she got this reputation that lasted for years, known as like the harlot, and only Martha was kind of close with the previous Monsignor before he died. Then Grace ends up dying from like a brain aneurysm or something at the monument or altar or whatever where the grandfather was buried. So it's just, she's viewed as like a stain on the one big stain on the reputation of this entire area. So now Judd, sorry, not Judd, Sai looks at it like, oh, now it's my inheritance, and I'm going to use it to like, because he really wanted to like, bolster his political. Well, he acknowledges he doesn't have like that political edge in terms of being personable or charismatic to get people to follow him, but his dad does. So he can use him to like get him up the ranks in politics, and like, he used a Star Wars reference, but he confused it with like the rebels kind of thing. But Blanc and Judd easily dismisses like, oh yeah, we're sure we're gonna help you find it. If we know anything, we'll sure tell you. This kid is a complete scumbag. But this is where the whole thing with the calling in about the tractor thing and in praying with the woman. But then this is where also we see that Blanc has him write down everything so he can get a clear understanding with nothing left out. But something was left out. Judd, in his mind, was thinking he can protect the legacy of Wix. Blanc is upset the fact that the reason for the collapse was that whole clinking thud sound was coming from Wix's flask that Judd took off from the crime scene and hid it, which was later it was taken from out of his room by somebody. And there's like an integral part because, trying to protect his reputation of being kind of like drinking on the job, which is kind of ironic that Wix kind of accused I'm pretty sure it was Nat, accused him of, because he's telling him straight up, I'm gonna tell the medical board you'll never practice as a doctor ever again, because you, after your wife left you, you started drinking, and clearly you've been, also been drinking while you're performing medical stuff on people. So it's like, I'm gonna kind of, you know, you're done. Uh, but he ain't doing it out of like any type of sense of good. He was just cleaning house. He could give less of a f with any of these people. This guy is clearly not a good person. It's kind of like a easy to hate kind of antagonist. He's not like the main villain, but he's kind of a villain, like a side villain that's kind of easy to hate. So, uh, uh, oh, oh, one night during like a storm, after just pretty much like had it with trying to figure this out, because he doesn't view this as a game like Blanc does. Uh, as he's going to try to shut everything down for tonight, or board everything up for the storm, uh, it was caught on a fuzzy camera by the groundskeeper's area that seemingly Weeks rose from the dead and escaped his tomb and met up with the groundskeeper and walked off. While Judd falls behind, he gets knocked out and he wakes up next to the groundskeeper's dead body. And he goes to try to turn himself in because he feels like he must have did it because there's no other person. Uh, but Blanc isn't buying it. Uh, uh, they end up following a trail that leads to, because after trying to reach out to everybody, Nat doesn't answer his phone. They go to Nat's place. It's completely ransacked, and they find the corpse of Wicks hunched over a tub filled with these chemicals that once drained, they found the skeleton of Nat by knowing it's him because of this unique wedding ring he has on. So once they uh, once Blanc pretty much gathers everybody to the church for this big epic reveal, he then stops himself and is like, I can't solve this one. Which the stupid guy sighs in the recording everything. He's such a opportunist to try to like, oh, the great Benoit Blanc can't solve this one. Oh, you're confirming that he rose from the dead and blah blah blah. Which you would think after the cops go to Nat's house and see the corpse of Wicks, oh, that is completely like upended. But whatever. Blanc kind of sort of have like a bit of a revelation. I'm glad he didn't go like full on I truly believe now. I'm glad he didn't go that route. But he used like the whole Damascus story, kind of like an inspiration a little bit. Trying to, he understands a little bit about like things like grace, and his faith in a way is kind of restored, where Martha comes in while everybody's out, except for the sheriff, Judd, and Blanc. Martha comes in and through some encouraging from Blanc, she wants to confess to Judd, and it turns out she orchestrated the entire thing, mostly. Martha come to the realization that, after, because do some coaxing from, in the first act from Judd, you know, about like trying to, go and confess things is kind of like weighing on your heart, because clearly after told the story about the harlot, Judd, clearly picked up she's harboring some deep-seated issues that he wasn't fully aware of, but he trusted that she can confess to Wicks, which she does. At first, I thought they had some kind of sexual thing inside the confessional thing, but it wasn't that. It turns out she knew exactly where the jewel was, but she'd been keeping it a secret for so long, hoping to take it to her grave, because she viewed it as like another, kind of like the apple of Eden, the original sin kind of situation. And the grandfather swallowed it, never to be seen again. That's why the daughter tried to ransack the church, because she was looking for this thing, not because she was, as earlier described, possessed by some demonic force. She was just like a greedy little harlot that has her own little issues. But she did die of a brain aneurysm, just probably from sheer anger and over dramatic and high stress and all the other stuff. Never to be able to know where that jewel was. Martha confessed to Wicks of her knowledge. That's where he decided to kind of clean the house, because he knows where the jewel was. He plans on taking it and just absconding with it, and just having like a life and being rich. She kind of, when she was in the meeting, when hearing that he's gonna like tell everybody's business and shutting everything down, she come to realize, oh snap, that whole apple, that jewel, he's, I devoted my life to this, and the grandson is pretty much like, not too dissimilar to his own freaking mother, who was obsessed with this thing. Now he is gonna like ruin this entire church, out of sheer greed, this temptation. So she orchestrated with Nat and the groundskeeper, who, by the way, groundskeeper is like completely in love with her, and they have like this little thing between each other. But Nat, out of the sheer devotion to the church, wanted to help. But so they did like a switcheroo where the groundskeeper dresses up like Wicks, gets buried in the mausoleum, but is able to break out of it through some intricate ways they set up earlier. He is on the inside of the mausoleum, where he has the opportunity to get inside the old skeleton, pull out the jewel where it's laid inside. Not sure why nobody did an autopsy on this grandfather all those years ago, but whatever. It's probably during the 70s. But during the 70s, they probably would do some level of autopsy to make sure it wasn't any kind of foul play. But I'm not sure. They just didn't do no autopsy. So the so Nat ends up dressing up like the groundskeeper, which is, Judd assuming it was him, and assuming that Wicks rose from the dead, they walk off into the bushes. But realizing they being followed, they knock him out. But once Nat laid eyes on the jewel, his greed came over. He decided he can use this, cut out everybody else, and use this to get rich, find his wife, and try to reconnect with her. So he ends up killing the groundskeeper, and plans on killing Martha and putting her body in that little green soup thing to dissolve her body to get away with it. And input in her drink this pentobarbital, but she knew what was going on, so she ends up switching the drink cups. He ends up passing out. She dumps his body into the because Nat had the real corpse in his own house. She staged the body, clean up, destroy, Nat's body completely, and was holding on to the jewel, hoping to once everything blows over, getting rid of it. But she didn't plan on, because what really threw everything off was the flask. Nat, being a doctor, didn't have anybody touch the murder weapon, because Block picked up when they were visiting the bar. There was two, because I didn't catch it at first either. There was two devil head wooden things. One actually has a dagger-like thing at the end. The other does not. Martha attached the one without the blade onto Weeks's cloth thing, because she usually dresses him before each service, and orchestrated like a die thing. So once a signal is pressed, it punctures this die to make it seem like, oh, he was stabbed, kind of thing. Once Judd escorted people, because Martha distracts everybody. Everybody has turned while the doctor was examining him. He puts the real devil's head dagger into the body, really killing Wicks and hide the evidence. But they knew about the flask thing. He tried to find it, but he didn't have time to look all over this place. He thought, he can't find it. But Judd ended up finding it. Nat ends up, or Martha ends up grabbing it, out of his room later, to try to cover up their conspiracy. But the guilt was too much, and they realized, because she doesn't want Judd to go away. He wasn't supposed to be involved. The whole flash thing kind of thrown everything off kilter, and he wasn't supposed to be suspected. It's supposed to be like a very unsolvable thing that killed tons of witnesses around, nobody in anywhere near the body to proclaim like an actual person. You just left it up. Oh, it was God's divine wrath, or the devil did it, kind of thing. It's just like clearly a complete mystery. But Blanc stopped the entire revelation with everybody inside, because he clearly saw she took that little drug from the doctor while holding on to the jewel, because she because she felt with guilt, but she confessed everything to Judd. He absolves her, but he also tells her forgive Grace. You have to forgive her. She does. She passes away. While the sheriff goes to try to find a poison kit, she drops the jewel. Blanc doesn't say anything and just kind of walks off. Some time goes by, nearly a year, where there's a new crucifix that's propped up against the wall. The place is renamed, but Cy is not too happy. He and some lawyers searched the entire area top to bottom. There was no jewel found, and he threatens like if there's anything new that was built, or like even if it's like a new roof or whatever, uh, I'm coming for you. And of course, everybody's like, like Blanc and Judd is like, look, we don't have anything, don't know anything what you're talking about. So Blanc and Judd says goodbyes as Judd's welcoming some new parishioners in, and the camera pans to the new crucifix that he carved from woodworking, and inside that's where the jewel is hiding. And that's where the movie ends. And this leads to my second point about like the thing that Rian Johnson constantly does with the characters he ends up partnering with Blanc. The consistent thing is also the fact that they end up getting away with a crime in some capacity. It's not too big that is the cause for him to turn them in for anything. Like having Judd walk away with a jewel that's not really meant for him, but like is technically belonging to the next of kin, which would be Sai. But knowing that he's a bit of like a prick, is probably not going to be using that in any good way, because this freaking jewel causes certain people who don't have the necessary willpower to do very heinous things with it. All the other loyalists goes off to live their lives in ways that was like semi good for them, or just not so good for them, or just living their lives the best way they can, kind of thing. But also it's kind of like going back with the commonalities. We got Glass Onion, the black woman, she didn't really her crime is she's kind of responsible for destroying the Mona Lisa, which she should be brought from freaking charges for. But which you would think that Edward Norton's character would pin on her, but he's ultimately responsible, so he would probably get like the biggest punishment. But she the one that she pulled the trigger technically. But she also destroyed a lot of artifacts inside. I don't know. I'm not sure what level of trouble she probably would get into. But also, the first one, Armida Armas' character, she pretty much covered up a partial crime and not revealing to the police. That is some level of a crime, or at least she would get some kind of punishment for that, because she tried to hide evidence here and there. There is a crime, but Blanc is pretty much like, making sure that they don't get in any kind of trouble. That is a consistent thing throughout these trilogy of films, working with Blanc and covering up any kind of crime that they are kind of sort of involved in. But I guess because it's not part of the bigger picture, he can easily gloss over it, I guess. And you also see like the humanity in these people, that they're deep down, they're actually good people that gets caught up in mess they didn't want to get involved in. But that was pretty much Knives Out 3. It's really good. Like, I was kind of worried that, because typically the third film tends to be like a downward on a downward slope, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm not sure how often I will watch this, because the first two Knives Out films I watched a lot, especially Glass Onion, despite the whole pandemic situation behind the that's looming over it. I have like a thorough enjoyment out of Glass Onion for some reason. I'm not sure. Uh, but yeah, man. I watched the first two Knives Out films a lot. Who knows? I might see. I definitely will see this third one a second time, but I'm not sure how much repeat viewings I will get compared to the first two. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Because of course, Daniel Craig did an amazing job, but I think the real star of this is Josh O'Connor, who plays Judd. He was the breakout star in this entire thing, and I think Daniel Craig was a good close second. Uh, and matter of fact, that's another thing that Rian Johnson does so well in these Knives Out films. Even though Blanc is the star and the pitch, he's not the real center focus. At least not right away. We're pretty much like, it's an ensemble cast, but we're kind of focused on somebody else usually, whether it's Judd or Armand de Armas' character, or in the case of Glass Onion, it's like these like disruptors pretty much. And then later on, the black woman character, Helen, that was the character's name, Helen. If we're like, they're pretty much like, they're the almost like the primary focus, even though technically on paper they're the secondary focus, but by the viewer audience they seem like the most focused. And he kind of like, Blanc is kind of like, walking beside, being a constant observer, and just being there to solve it all. I'm not sure how to word it, but you catch my drift. It's very well done, honestly. Unlike, as much as I love the Hercule Poirot, Murder on the Orient Express, that is a trilogy in and of itself, which I would love to see like a death battle between. I'm not sure it was gonna be like a death battle, but the who's like the better private detective between Benoit Blanc and Hercule Poirot, because they both very good. But I think Blanc has the better trilogy compared to Hercule Poirot, because Poirot, the first one, Murder on the Orient Express, is very good. The second one, Death on the Nile, I don't think was received as well. But the third one was a little bit better. But still, the first one was still, the Murder on the Orient Express is like way better. But in any case, yeah, the man, I kind of lost track of what I was saying a bit ago. I kind of got, lost in the sauce with talking about Poirot. But the Knives Out trilogy is, for the most part, very consistent in quality. Oh, God. I'm not sure if Rian Johnson would continue, because if he does a fourth one, I think, not to get into the dangerous territory of the Fast and Furious films, but I think he probably could easily have maybe one more in him, but wrap it up there and have it be the final chapter in all this whole Knives Out stuff. But I think I remember what I was talking about. I was leading to, like, I think Benoit Blanc is a slightly better detective than Hercule Poirot. Slightly. That is my opinion. I think it's more so maybe the way he observes people's behaviors and pieces things together. But unlike Blanc, I don't think Poirot needs anybody like a sidekick along the way of his investigation. But in any case, I thoroughly enjoyed these films. This one's pretty good. But in my personal take, I think the first two are like a little bit better. But in any case, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of Knives Out 3. And I will see you guys in a little bit for another review. So stay tuned. Peace.